regular meeting of the HABD Board of Commissioners is now called to order. We'll start with a moment of silence. All right, roll call. Vice Chairman Todd.
Present.
Commissioner Hood.
Present.
Commissioner Pantazis.
Present.
Commissioner Lewis is on the way. All right, if I can get, we're looking at approving the agenda. We may have to do some adjustments. We want to present the resolution, but I want to make sure that we have a full board here to present the resolution. So if it's the pleasure of this board, if we can go ahead and approve the minutes and discuss old business and new business, and we can move those around. And then we can come back to the resolution. That's the pleasure of this board.
That's fine.
So if I could get a motion to adopt the agenda with those adjustments.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we go ahead and rearrange the agenda according to what is needed.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? All opposed? All right, well, we just adopted the adjustment to the agenda, and Ms. Lewis just showed up. So scratch that.
Scratch that. All present.
All right. All right, so we'll follow the agenda as printed, and so that motion carries. We'll follow the agenda as printed.
Okay.
We had a motion. We get a second? I think I heard a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the agenda is adopted. All right, so now we're down to a resolution, and this is a special day for me. It's a special day for the Board of Commissioners, and this is a special day for the city of Birmingham. I'm going to ask Mr. Lundy if you could join me down at the podium here. Vice Chair Todd, if you could join me as well. We have a resolution to present. Am I on? Yes. All right. All right. This is a very special day for me. Like we just said, this is something that we actually announced about a month ago, but we're going to make it official today. As most of you know, Mrs. Myrna Jackson served on the Board of Commissioners for 2 terms. She served admirably to this board for 2 terms. The Housing Authority of the Birmingham District. What we want to do today is we want to acknowledge Ms. Myrna Jackson. And with that acknowledgement, we want to present a resolution to make the HABD Board of Commissioners boardroom the Myrna Carter Jackson boardroom. You can go ahead and give us a hand before. So I guess to be in order, what I would like to do is I'm going to read the resolution. Once we read the resolution, if it's a pleasure of this board, we will act on that. Whereas Myrna Carter Jackson served as Commissioner of the Housing Authority of the Birmingham District from 2012 to 2019. Further, prior to assuming Commissioner, Jackson served as Interim President of the Metro Birmingham Branch Chapter of the NAACP. Jackson was honored along with other women on the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Movement by the Metro Birmingham Branch of the NAACP. And whereas Myrna Jackson is a former foot soldier during the Civil Rights Movement and participated in the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights led by Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth, it has been her long life mantra to never look down on a man unless you are picking him up. Whereas Myrna Carter Jackson has devoted her life to improving the lives of others. During her tenure as a commissioner, she has been instrumental in the transformation of public housing and committed to enhancing the quality of life for the people it serves. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners, hereby designates for her legacy of leadership to the Housing Authority of the Birmingham District and for her dedication and service to the residents of public housing, supports naming HABD's boardroom to be known now and hereafter as the Myrna Carter Jackson Boardroom. Now, I want to say this. I got to tell this quick story. I know we pushed for time, but this is my favorite memory of Ms. Jackson, and this statement sticks with me wherever I go. If I go to an event, I just got on the board, and I think we were at Harris Home, and there was a program, and I wasn't on the program, and I didn't know where to sit. So I said, well, I just, I didn't want to sit at the head table. I didn't know where to sit. And finally, we decided. I think somebody asked me to sit at the head table, and Ms. Jackson, she whispered to me. I don't know if you remember this, but she said, "Young man, let me tell you something. It's always better to be asked up than asked down." So anytime I go to an event, I always wait and wait to be asked up or what have you. And so I just remember that so fondly. But that's the kind of person Ms. Jackson is. She's just a wealth of knowledge, and I just want to tell you publicly, it has been my absolute pleasure to serve with you, alongside of you, working for the citizens of the Housing Authority of Birmingham District and the residents of Birmingham. I have enjoyed every minute of it. Ms. Jackson, other saying is, checks and balances. You gotta have checks and balances. And so we're gonna continue to have checks and balances in the name of Myrna Carter Jackson. And we just are so grateful and so glad that we were able to make this happen for you. So again, congratulations. I'm going to allow Vice Chairman Todd to say a word, and then Mr. Lundy, if you will, say a word. Okay.
But Chairman, on that check and balance, that's something that can always be remembered because her name gonna be in here. That's right. And we just thank God for the many years that we have worked together as a team trying to improve, to enhance the lives of the residents. And one thing she makes sure that she always, if that's not in writing, it ain't been done.
That's right. That's right.
And that's a true statement.
That's right.
Because keeping things in writing is a history where you know what's going on. And one of the things about our race, sometimes we do a lot of things, but we don't write it down nowhere.
That's right.
And nobody can follow through with it because you carry it to the grave with you.
That's right.
But in this case, we just thank God that you taught us and you drove hard, that put in writing, that talk about it, and your focus on the residents. I tell you, you did more riding around through the housing than I ever rode through. And I lived in housing. She made sure that she went back to see what was going on. That's a true heart of a person who really committed to the work. Not just hearing what the other folks say, but going to see it for herself. And I thank God for the time that I've worked with you. I know sometimes, just be real, sometimes I don't know about that, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Jackson care whether I agree with her or not. She gonna speak her opinion, and then she'll throw one of them proverbs on me. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience, not only for me, but for the board, but for every resident that you have worked with, talked with, and built some trust with them that they felt comfortable enough to come talk to you about whatever the situation is. That's what you call a hands-on relationship. And that what changes people's lives when they can come and talk to you hand on hand. So we thank God for you. And God ain't through with you yet.
That's right.
He got some more work
That's
that
right.
you go continue. In the church, we said we're gonna be faithful until death. So we know that you're gonna continue to do a great work. May God bless you, may God keep you is my prayer.
Oh, my hood. Oh, this lady got this, you don't hood too? I'm from JC still like that. I got you.
I guess I'm gonna have to follow this ministry here. It's hard to do. But Commissioner Jackson, and I just want to tell you on behalf of myself as the President and CEO of the Housing Authority of Birmingham District and the employees, how much we appreciate you and the work that you did for this agency. And both the chair and the vice chair were correct when they said you always talked about checks and balances. And so when we have your, I think we did a photo of you, and we're going to erect that onto this board, one of the walls in this boardroom. And whenever I look up at that picture, I'm going to be reminded, what would Commissioner Jackson do? What would Commissioner Jackson say? We just really adore you, and I just want to tell you from a personal note that you've been a mentor to me. You probably didn't realize that, but I can always go to you and share with you what we were doing, and you give me some real encouragement and advice, and so I appreciate that. And you will continue to be a mentor for me. And I want you to know that the chair mentioned that you are a former foot soldier. I think you're a current foot soldier. You don't move as fast, but when you get there, you're going to change things. And we really appreciate what you've been able to do for this agency. We love you on behalf of the Housing Authority of Birmingham District, the residents, the employees, myself, the entire city of Birmingham. Congratulations, you deserve it.
I'm going to allow my colleagues, if you'd like to say a word, the floor is yours. Commissioner Lewis.
Well, I just want to say, I appreciate Ms. Jackson. 20 years that I came back to Alabama, I've been following her. I don't know how we got started following her. But she was a mentor, she's a teacher, she's an excellent, encouragement to the seniors. When I first had to be president of Freedom Manor, I talked to Ms. Jackson and talked to Hezekiah, and they have worked with me diligently with the seniors. A lot of things I didn't know, they told me how to do it. I suggested that I do it. They didn't try to run you, but they will suggest it. Why don't you check this out? So I appreciate everything Ms. Jackson did, and I especially appreciate your mentorship on the board here. Thank you. Good luck in all you do, because we'll still be working together.
Ms. Jackson, thank you for everything you've done for Birmingham, and thank you for everything you've done for this board. It's my promise to do everything in my power, and I know Dr. Hood would say the same, to honor your legacy in every decision we make on this board. So thank you very much.
I just feel like I missed out. And I haven't had an opportunity to build a relationship with you, but clearly you have set the standard that we're all going to aspire to be, so thank you for what you've done. Appreciate it.
All right, well, without further ado, I'm going to present Ms. Jackson with this plaque that will be here in the boardroom with her picture on it. And once I present Commissioner Jackson with the plaque, I'm going to allow her to say a few words. Do you want me to bring the mic to you? Okay, we'll bring the mic to you. All right, so we're going to present this plaque. And the plaque reads, the Housing Authority of the Birmingham District would like to dedicate this boardroom to Ms. Myrna Jackson, who devoted 7 years of outstanding leadership as Board of Commissioners of the Housing Authority of the Birmingham District. All right, and then it goes on to read Mrs. Jackson's famous quote, never look down on a man unless you're picking him up. That's my philosophy, to work towards making everybody feel good about themselves. All right.
Thank you very much. you leave me speechless. And this is one of the few times, because I usually have something to say regardless. But it's all positive. But I appreciate everything that you all have done. And I'm shaking out the nerves. I'm coming out with Parkinson's, so just bear with me. But I appreciate the thoughtfulness and the things that you say while I'm living. Because when I die, I won't know these things. And I appreciate you letting me know this, and I hope that I can live up to your expectations. I would like to share with you before I give the mic back to them that in November 2020, I will be honored in Washington, D.C. My video will be permanently placed in the Library of Congress. That will be in November, so I'm looking forward to that. I want to share that with you all, and I guess you'll hear it later on. So, thank you all so much for everything. And I know you gotta get to board meeting, but I appreciate it, and I appreciate it by what I do. Not what I say, but what I do. Thank you so much. Never look down on a man unless you're picking me.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Thank you so much, and we just thank God for you. And again, we just want to say congratulations to you and well done, by good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. One of those is the housing authority of the Birmingham district. So thank you so much for all that you've done for not only the residents of the housing authority of the Birmingham district, but the entire city of Birmingham. All right. Okay. All right. So we don't want to take any pictures.
Let me add one more thing. Please, forgive me for this. I don't know why I sat here and didn't say this. I apologize. But I wanted so much to thank Mayor William Bell for appointing me. And I wanted to give him credit for that. When he called me and asked me would I accept the nomination, and I told him, I don't know, I don't think, he said, oh, you can do it. And I said, well, I'll try it. I said, if it doesn't work out, I know the way to get away from it. So thank God it improved. I was here 2 terms, so I appreciate it. I wanted him to know that I appreciate him appointing me, and I hope I lived up to his expectations as well. Thank you.
All right. So we're gonna take a few quick pictures and then we'll proceed back with the regular scheduled agenda. Okay.
One, two. More. Ready, one more. 1, 2.
Good. While they're taking pictures, we do need to actually have a motion to adopt the resolution. So if I could entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt the resolution.
Moving and properly second, all in favor? All opposed? All right, the resolution's been adopted. All right, okay. Down to the approval of the minutes for committee meeting November 13, 2019, and regular meeting November 14, 2019.
Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the minutes from November 13, 2019, as a committee meeting, and the regular meeting November 14, 2019.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and properly second. All in favor? All opposed? All right. The minutes are approved. Okay, we're down to old business.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do, just want to get I know we did a brief update, as I was talking to Mr. Dennis Tassit a few minutes ago about the Kimbrough home, and also about Mark Simpson. I just want to know where we are with Kimbrough home, just for a brief moment. Have we gotten the heating units, set the heating unit things in place right now? Are we still working on it before we?
So, Mr. Vice Chairman, Commissioners Chairman, we're still working on it, it's underway, so the work is in progress. We are probably, I'm gonna turn to my, what percentage?
I saw it.
So we have them in about 40 units in place right now.
Okay.
The HVAC system.
Okay.
About
so-
40 units.
And so as I understand it, the contract, it term ends in a year?
It's actually 2 years.
2 years.
But the contractor will say that they will be completed within
So-
a year.
Within a year?
So it's a 2-year contract.
Okay.
The contractor assured us that they could probably have all those units done within a year.
Okay.
And so,
I guess.
that's the expectation. Right now, we've got 40 units that have been fully complete as far as installation of heating and air conditioning.
Okay, I guess one of my hope that before the summer come back, that we have everybody blowing cool in their homes.
And that's the goal, and we'll continue to,
We'll be
to
there.
provide the board some updates.
Okay. Okay, now, as far as Morgan Simpson, on the painting and redesign structures, whatever, I know we're not talking about the physical structure in every way, but the painting and all this other stuff to make it more presentable, so to speak, and water heaters or something like that, heaters and all that.
So there were a number of things, Mr.
Yeah.
Vice Chairman, that came up in the last meeting. I believe that was one, and so was the staffs at the community centers, as well as the environmental assessments for Collegeville. And the staff put together a report and was prepared to present the report. As I understand it, my understanding is that it was pulled from the agenda, and so we will be prepared to give you a full report, this board a full report in January.
Okay.
So staff has done the work,
Okay.
and so if it's a pleasure, the board will give you a full report in January.
Any other old business? Any other old business? All right, we're down to new business. New business?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just kind of, from a board perspective, as we move forward into the new year and further on as we continue to serve as board members, you know, one of the things I like to see is that the CEO and the staff, when instructions are given, I like to see it that we get a report back in a timely manner. I'm not saying that this has not been the case, but I'd like to see more of a, depending on the nature of what we've asked about and what we're looking for, we would like for the CEO and staff to get back with the board or with the chairman as soon as possible on certain matters that we have instructed the CEO and the, looking for the staff to bring back a report in a very timely way, so that we can continue to be more abreast on a more consistent way. And that's the only thing that I'm coming from me as a vice chairman, and that what we ask for, let's see, can we get those things back in a timely manner, and then there's something that might come up that is out of your control, then even get back with us or even on that, so that we can kind of stay on the same page and the same type of timing as to when something might happen. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I just want.
Oh, no, there's something else. I thought you was finished with that. I was going.
Yeah, I was just going to speak to that. And so I appreciate that. That's a great idea. That's a great comment. And I think it would be helpful and useful. Perhaps we will be real clear in terms of a time frame of bringing something back. So if it's bring back by the next board meeting, then as long as we're clear of the time frame, because we can meet the time frame as long as we are clear in terms of when it's expected back.
Okay, this time I'd like to use Ms. Jackson's term, checks and balances. I would like a clear-cut dialogue on emergency housing, because clearly I'm not understanding. When you say emergency, what is consistent to emergency?
So, Commissioner Lewis, well, so when I think about emergency, so there's emergency housing, which is the public thinks that if somebody is homeless, that there's a program that a person can get in housing right away. We don't have what we call emergency housing. But a person can get on the waiting list, and we'll do everything we can to qualify them, to get them qualified to get them housing. Now, with respect to work orders, we have what we call a concept called emergency work orders. And emergency work orders, we have to close those out within 24 hours. And some of the things that are congruent with emergency work orders would be like no water, no heating source when it's winter, or no heating source in the winter. If the power is out, those kinds of things. Not a functioning toilet would be considered an emergency work order. Now, what happens oftentimes is that in a unit where you may have 3 toilets, if one of them is out, then we wouldn't deem that as an emergency, because there are 2 other toilets within the unit that the residents can use, and we would just put it in the routine work order system, and we get it within a few days. And so, if you're speaking of work orders, then that's the
The other thing is priority placement for emergency.
Mr. Chairman, if I can intervene right here. Ms. Lewis, you can correct me if I'm misunderstanding. Are you talking about a person who have nowhere to go and something happened? Do we have a place where, in our policy, where they can immediately get a place to stay?
Yeah, what is the procedures for that? That's
what she's talking about.
Yeah, so we don't have, there's no program through the Department of Housing and Urban Development, unless it's come out within the last couple of days or so. It's called emergency housing. What we try to do, we try to respond to every situation where a person may be homeless and try to get them in as quickly as possible. Because we may have vacancies in various neighborhoods, various sites, and the waiting list may not be very long. And so we might be able to turn that around in 4 or 5 days. The challenge becomes whether or not the applicant is willing to accept the unit. Because the applicant may say, well, I want to go over to Tuxedo Terrace, for example. And we said, well, we won't have anything in Tuxedo Terrace, but we've got something in Morton Simpson. Well, I don't want to go to Morton Simpson. And so that's where we run into a little bit of a problem.
Also in response to that, I can say on a few occasions where there became a situation to me, the housing authority, the staff, worked very diligently to see that that happened. I was seeing what they had a couple of days turnover when someone might have called me and I referred it to the appropriate staff, and they was able to get those persons in to a place to stay. And that is true. He said that I believe when you're homeless, you gotta be in choice of where you live. I hadn't figured that point out yet. And we do offer persons places to stay, and I was seeing staff do a good turnaround to help them. And from my experience, I've seen that. Okay.
All right, so did you get your question answered? Okay, all right, very good. And back to your comments, Vice Chairman Todd, concerning the information that the board requests. I echo those sentiments, and I think we do need to come up with some type of timelines or what have you when we request information and we ask for it back in a timely manner. A timely manner for me may be different than a timely manner for you or staff, and so we definitely need to drill down on that. And I don't want to belabor the point, because I think we'll be discussing this later as well. But I know that there have been instances where I've requested information that I thought that was very important to the business of this board, and the information was received, in my opinion, at a tardy date. And so, you know, the point is that when the board asks for information, that's what we expect, and we don't want to have to continue to ask for it. I know there's been some issues where I've had to continuously ask for the same thing, and that's not fair to this board. So we definitely need to shore that up. All right. Okay. Very good. The other new business that I would like to discuss is go ahead.
Yeah, on the new business, you know, I'm very excited, very intrigued about what the staff had done over the year in terms of HUD regulations and all the things that we have met. Scores went up. I just been so happy, very elated about that. So the new business that I want to present today is that, see, can we look at, we know next Wednesday is Christmas. I want to see, can we do Thursday and Friday too, then come back on Monday?
I'm gonna support that request. So that if that's the pleasure of this board, as long as it does not hinder the operation of this agency, then I will support that.
Would y'all let it up? Will y'all allow it to hinder the operation?
Well, very good. Well, if I can entertain a motion, then we will we'll pass the resolution. I can entertain a motion.
Well, I make a motion that we allow the Thursday and Friday after Christmas for the employees to be off, paid off. We don't. Not yet. We'll come back to New Year.
All right. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. All right. So, Mr. London, you could convey that to the staff.
We'll spread the chair.
Very good. Very good. All right.
That was it.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. There are a couple items as far as new business I would like to discuss. Mr. London, I know we're moving rapidly with phase one of Tom Brown and Farrington, I guess that is, which will be phase one off-site. And I know that there's some relocation and demolition taking place. So what I would like to do is see if you could get us a report for next month concerning where we are with phase one, off-site of the Tom Brown redevelopment, timelines on the relocation, where those residents going. We'd also like to know as far as the demolition, when is that gonna take place? If it is taking place, you know, how soon will that be complete? And upcoming phases as well for Tom Brown. But I know that it's moving forward, and I know there's some issues with relocating residents and school districts and things of that nature. And I know there have been some meetings that have been taking place. I'm under the assumption that those meetings are taking place, and I would like to get some type of report or documentation, excerpts from the meeting concerning what's going on with the relocation. So we can get that in January. I appreciate that.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to do that. And would it be okay for the board meeting in January?
Yes, fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very
Yeah,
good.
the board meeting.
And just for a quick statement regarding that, we've been working with the leadership, meeting with the leadership of the county, with the county commissioner tonight, met with the superintendent of the county schools, met with the mayor of Centerpoint, and some others, just to talk about our plans going forward. One of the questions that's out there that I can clear up, we've tried to clear it up through a statement, that with respect to Tom Brown, Barrington, first of all, is an existing property that's been around for 40 years. It needs all new systems, new roof, new windows. And so as this board remembers, that about a year or so ago, we partnered with Arlington Properties, who owned the property. And it's been an assisted property for several years. And so they received Section 8. They've been receiving Section 8 all along. It just wasn't a housing authority, but it was a Section 8 property. And what we've said to the leadership, we're not going to increase the number of units, it's going to be the same number of units. And the way that the structure, the plan is structured, we've got 22 units out of Tom Brown, so there's 22 units out of total 100 units that could possibly have first preference of being able to go in some of those units. To date, we've got about 3 or 4 families that have agreed to probably relocate to the county, to that property. And so that's much like our experience that we had with City Drive. You know, when in the beginning, there was a lot of concern about all of Loving Village moving up to City Drive. You remember that. And at the end of the day, most of the residents of Loving Village want to stay in Loving Village because that's where their resources, the church, their family, all lived in the west side of town. They want to stay there. And then after we've completed the construction, and they like those units better than like the ones in City Drive. And so the outcome was that less than, I believe, 25 families actually moved to City Drive. And we expect that the maximum they can move from Tom Brown is going to be 22. At this point, it looks like most of the residents like to stay on site or be relocated within another area. And it's about 3 or 4 that have committed to moving to the new property. So we will have that report for this board next month, and we'll continue to meet with the leadership. And we plan to convene, but we want to do the leadership first. We plan to convene a meeting with the neighborhood, and so we're looking at within a couple of square miles of the neighborhood and knock on some doors and try to convene a meeting just to share information with the neighborhood citizens.
So we're talking about max 22 families. Is that
From
Tom Brown?
According
Okay.
to the structure.
Okay. All right. Very good.
That would have first preference. Would have preference.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. Okay. The other issue that I would like to discuss is that we're on the last month's agenda, I believe there was a RFP that went out concerning vouchers for developers. That RFP, we actually placed it on hold. Since then, I've been doing my due diligence, and we said that we were going to send that back to committee. I would like to discuss that with our attorney in executive session. We have some potential conflicts with that RFP with some of our board members, so we need to discuss that before we move forward with anything else concerning that RFP.
Okay.
So that needs to be discussed in executive session.
Okay.
Yes. All right. And the other thing is, one of the things that we want to discuss in January, I put on the agenda for discussion with this board is, I think I spoke to some of you concerning our contract, the way our contracts are set up with all of our contracts, whether it's professional services, maintenance contracts. I want to look into the feasibility of moving toward one-year contracts for all of our services, with the exception of our audits. I know that may be an issue, and maybe the financial services as far as our banking services. I want us to have a full, thorough discussion concerning contracts, and I want that to happen in January. I think that there's a lot of pros with moving forward with one-year contracts, maybe some cons as well, but I just would like for us to wait that discussion and let us move forward with an agreement on how we're going to have our contracts drawn up, because it's, in my mind, I think that it allows for healthy competition when you do one-year contracts. Also, it puts your vendors and your folks that have these contracts, puts them on notice that, hey, if you're not getting the job done, then we'll be evaluating at the end of that one-year contract. And so I would like to look into that in January. I want us to have a discussion right here on this desk, discuss how we look into moving forward with our contracts. Vice Chairman Tuck.
Mr. Chairman, on that note, when we do have a discussion, I would like to know from those who deal with the contracts, how would that affect people want to bid for a project with the housing authority if we go into that system? So I still like to, get that information, part of what you were asking for, to see how that will affect big companies or anyone wants to even try to get a contract with us. So I just want with it.
Yeah, that's fair, and I think that's a concern.
Okay.
I think that's a valid concern. If you have companies that that may not even want to bid if it's a one-year contract, then that would be concerning. So that's something that we need to wait. We need to wait and see how this. We don't want any unintended consequences for trying to do the right thing. And so that's something that we really want to give some serious thought to, is looking at these contracts and seeing if that would be a benefit to the agency or a hindrance. We've had a few discussions about this, and I know we've had discussions with the President and CEO. And one of the concerns is, I know in some departments there may be some additional work that may have to be done if we're doing one-year contracts. You have to turn right back around and re-up for the next year. I know maybe with the banking services, I know that may be something that we may need to take a look at, because as I understand, there's software that has to be set up, and may take a few months or so to get the software set up. So maybe by the time you get the software set up, 3 or 4 or 5 months down the road, now you come back around for another contract. But hey, that's something to discuss. If it's a bit cumbersome to staff, I don't know if that's justification not to move forward. But now, if it's something that hinders the work of the agency, then that's something totally different. But if it's just hey, well, it's a little cumbersome, well, I don't know if that would suffice as a valid explanation not to do one-year contract.
Mr. Chairman, if I'm not out of order,
Yeah.
Mrs. Abington, if I can get her just to make a statement on what we're saying, not to go into discussion. I heard what you said, we want to get into a full discussion.
Right.
But can we just get one statement on this particular matter?
Well,
Specifically on
well,
the
hold on 1 second. Now, we're talking about all contracts. All right, now, Ms. Abington,
Stop on banking.
she just does the banking.
Uh-huh.
You know, now, you know, if
I
you
just
wanna
wanna say
speak
it's
to the banking, now, hold on. Ms. Abington, we're gonna have you come to the podium, okay, so we can get you on the record, and that way all right.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
So it's not just the software, we also have to get all of our direct deposits done through HUD. So that, the last time probably took HUD maybe 7 months for them to transition. So we literally could just be transitioning our banking every year. And by the time HUD transitions the bank account, we'd be doing it again to a different bank account. It's not a timely process with HUD, and we have no control over it. We'll send, it depends on the type of money that it is as to where it's going to go. So it's not like I just send it to my local field office and they take care of it. I have to send some things to Kansas City, some things to Texas. I can't remember where capital funds go, but any type of money that we're getting that's getting direct deposited into the housing authority's bank accounts has to go and be done by people who I've never seen, met, or know. And so I have no way to call them and say, hey, where are we? It's a long process. I would hate to do that. The other one I want you to think about is our health insurance. That would be a hard one to do on a yearly basis.
Okay, very good, very good. And thank you, Ms. Abington, for providing that information. Yeah, and let's continue this discussion. I want to have a healthy discussion, but I don't want contractors to hold us hostage just because it's cumbersome, you know. So if we have to have something in place where if a contractor, if they're not doing the job, we can move on from the contract. And so it's just not enough for me to say, well, we just got to hold on to this contractor because it's cumbersome and it takes too long. That's not justification enough to hold on to a contract.
Mr. Chairman, one, I applaud the idea of looking into these contracts because I think at the end of the day, a stale old contract and somebody that we haven't, spent any time paying attention to, that's a bad thing.
Right.
I do have concern about having an annual renewal process that does put extra weight on the staff and the system as a whole. So kind of to echo Reverend Todd's point, if we continue the debate and the discussion on this, I would really like to see as part of the report on what the effect of some of the yearly or 2-year processes or whatever it may be, what that effect would be. Also a list of basically every area of contracts that this would be affecting in writing, so that we can then properly evaluate, well, all right, this contract we could easily renew on an annual basis. But maybe this contract's going to be so big and so cumbersome to deal with that we may need to stagger it with another heavier, more cumbersome group of contracts so that it doesn't put a burden on the daily operations.
Right.
If I can do to the chairman's point, I remember we was over, I think there was Elton Village, I believe, where contractors had issues with their own supervision, folks quitting and carrying on. That's something, that's a point that I'm making with you, that those kind of circumstances, if it's their fault, we're not responsible for folk quitting.
Right.
All that we want them to do is make sure they do what they said they're going to do. So if that does come into play, then we need to look at something like that. When folks don't carry it out, you don't need to continue to extend the contract. But like you said, we could talk about this in more discussion, but I just want to let you to your point.
Okay.
We've seen that happen, where people quit, and then the contract was still extended. That went out of fault.
Right, that's right. Okay. All right, very good, very good.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So I just want to make sure, and Vice Chairman, you mentioned you'd like to see some information with respect to this, and so just kind of thinking about maybe a survey, or first of all, listing as Commissioner Fantastis mentioned, all the contracts that we have, and list all those different areas, we can bring that back to the board if you like, or if that's something the board wants to do, then I just want to be clear. But we can also reach out to some of the different service providers to get their input in terms of something, maybe just a blanket survey. Would you be willing to apply to, for services with the housing authority if it was just a 1-year contract versus a 2?
Well, I don't know that,
I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, like, we're probably gonna talk about that more discussion, but, something just ran across me in my mind that bothered me, and it bothered me for a long time. Well Fargo. Don't never give nothing back to us, for I know, been acting for years. Why Well Fargo don't give us, and we got all our money there. And they don't never give us nothing, they don't get into the community, they don't do nothing. I've been talking about that for a minute.
Well,
And I ain't heard nothing back about Well Fargo giving nothing back to the community. Why we get all our money sitting on a plate that don't give us nothing back? Don't make sense.
Yeah, well, Reverend, I tell you, that's one of the reasons where this came from, to be honest with you. That's kind of where this genesis started. That's where it started. And, right, and so now, when I mentioned, maybe changing banks at that time, the explanation was, well, we're under contract, we're on a 3-year contract, or 2, so we, guess that we're held hostage, for lack of a better term.
I mean, 10 years, but Chairman, now we got 3 years gone.
Well, no, to my knowledge, it's up now, and the banking services, RFP is out. At this time, I did see that, but this is something that I've been discussing for the last 3 years. And, so we're now finally to this point where we can maybe look into some other, banking services. But I'm with you 100%.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It just can't come from spirit.
All right, very good, very good. All right, any other new business we need to discuss? One other thing I would like to point out, the Villas at Titusville, we were there, I guess that was last month sometime, and so that's the second phase, I guess, first phase on site at the Villas at Titusville. And I just want to say this, publicly, I'm definitely pleased with what I saw when I went out to the Villas of Titusville. I thought it was a wonderful oasis, and I just want to thank this board for what you did in order to make that happen. I didn't get an opportunity to say it at the event, so I'm gonna say it here. So I want to thank this board for what you did to make that happen. It was a team effort from Mr. Lundy, staff, his board, to help put that together. And so I just want to thank you, the Board of Commissioners, for what you did. Because as you know, this process has been going on. This process started before I even got on the board. And so this has been a long process. And it's been a long process. And so so I just want to offer my kudos to you as a board, and to Mr. Lundy, and to the staff, the real estate department, all of our partners, the city, for what you did to help bring, and I can't forget the bank as well. I think it's BVA, but so to help put that together. And so I just want to mention that briefly. All right?
And just respond to give more clarity, we want to thank Ms. Naomi Truman, who was part of this, being instrumental to see that this project gets started.
Yeah, as you can recall, when I first got on the board, the developer had already been selected sometime around that time. So, I want to thank Ms. Truman and for what she did to get the project started, and Mr. Lundy took it up and carried it to the finish line. So, very good. So, with that being said, I'm going to. I'm going to allow Mr. Lundy to go ahead with his report.
Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, Commissioners, to the employees, to the residents, to the citizens of Birmingham, 3 items that I want to report on this afternoon. The first one is the Public Housing Assessment System FAST update for fiscal year 2018. On December 4th, the Housing Authority received an attached notice informing us of our official annual FAST score of 71 for FY fiscal year 2018 with a designation of substandard financial. Now, although our overall score is within the standard range, the financial indicator is substandard. And the total score is comprised of these 4 different categories. So the physical condition of the properties look. We scored 25 out of 40, which is not so bad when you look at the age of our properties.
Okay.
The financial score was 14 out of 25. Now, and that was lower than what it should have been. And I'll give some explanation as we go further down. The program management, which is the management indicator, we got 22 out of 25, which is really, really good, thanks to housing operations and staff, because that covers occupancy, TARs, which we talk about quite a bit, accounts payable, and accounts receivable. And so we did really well in that area. And then capital improvement, capital management, which is real estate development, excellent job, 10 out of 10. And they focus on the timeliness of the obligation of the funds and the expenditures of the funds. And so you have to obligate within, I believe, 2 years or so, and you have to expand within 4 now. And so we did real well with that. Our score was impacted by one of the major things, I would say the major thing, was a $6.5 million that we paid toward the energy performance contract, EPC, which it's been in place for a while, for the debt service, which affected the cash reserves. Also, the inclusion of the rental assistant demonstration, which is RAD program, that they included, and this really gets sort of convoluted. As you recall, may recall, there was a point when we had maybe 7 sites listed as part of the RAD. And then we changed that a little bit. We changed that. And then we were advised by HUD, because it took so long for us to get all these redevelopment initiatives rolling out, because it's such a large agency. It's a fairly new program as well. We were asked to withdraw the chaps and then put it back in. And so we did that, and we followed the HUD rules. And what happens is that in the normal evaluation and calculation of the score, all your sites are different, AMPs. Morty Simpson, Marks Village, Collegeville, all of those are AMPs. And so you have to provide a financial assistance to all those units when you're not under RAD. And if you're under RAD, then those come out. And so, and what we were doing was a timing thing with the EPC, and we knew that EPC would hit this agency pretty hard at some point in the implementation of it. And so in 2018, that's when we paid $6.5 million in June of 2018, so it's affected that score. As reported last month, we anticipate for 2019, which is last fiscal year, now we're in this 2020 fiscal year, we anticipate that it's going to be 80 points or above, and the financial issue will not be an issue anymore, because a couple things. One is that we hope to be further along with the implementation of the EPC, where we can begin to experience some savings in our energy consumption. And then as we experience savings, it's my understanding, that increases our subsidy as well. It impacts our subsidy at some point. And so
We're hoping in 2020 that at the end of, okay, do you want me to go to Mike?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so the Housing Authority's fiscal year is June, HUD's fiscal year is October. or September, but they fund us on a calendar year. So he's talking about HABD's calendar year 2020. We're hoping to start our subsidy in 2020, start to receive our $3 million to start making our debt service. Our EPC has been in place since it started in 15. We started making debt service in 16, 17, 18. I got them to give me 3 payments off in 19 and part of 20. So that saved about $2.5 million that we didn't have to take out of our reserves to pay, because at this point, HUD has not paid us any money towards making our debt service. And the whole thing behind an EPC is you put all these energy savings in place, and HUD is supposed to reimburse you for them. We're not being reimbursed, but to meet our, I don't know, I can bring you a 14 on the financial, or I could not pay the bill. I think you'd rather I pay the bills. So I pay the bills. The reason it doesn't affect, why it does affect us, and I think you're gonna understand this more than everyone, it's a weighted average. So when I had to wait 1,942 more units into it, that I have 25, 35, that would be the weighted units I have, say in 19, 17, and 16, but in 18, I had to put 4,448 units in and have all of that score go against the housing authority. So we would have had probably in 18 or in 19 had those RAD units not counted against us. But you have only so much money. 23 of the 25 points for finance are how much money do you have in the bank at the end of the year? But it's how much money do you have in the bank for this property, this property, this property. And so you're kind of trying to maximize the score for each one of the properties that weights the highest. Well, we had to add back in 1,900 units, which is, it's almost 50% of the units that were taken out that got added back in. So it, you know, it traumatized the score, I will say that.
So,
And for Mass, just so why it didn't affect Mass as much, they have bonus points that are given to them. So even if their scores fall, certain areas will get like 2% bonus, like 2-point bonuses. Well, because we never had debt service and then we had the EPC, all of a sudden we have debt service. So my 25 points that I had possible, all of a sudden fell to 23 points because I've got debt service. So I'm losing the 2 debt service points that were like free points in the past. Just, I don't know if you understand it.
Yeah, but
Thinking you might.
well,
But it's just numbers.
we understand.
Okay.
So this is a very intelligent board, we get it. All right, so, we had the debt service in 2015, is that correct?
We did, but they were under RAD. So in 2015, we paid like $375,000. We didn't make full payments until fiscal year 16 and 17. But those years, those sites went under RAD. So we were able to use our resources for, say, 8 of our sites instead of having to put them at 12 of our sites.
And so you said that the reimbursement from HUD only comes after you start to experience the savings?
It only comes once the EPC is finished. So they're now finishing that EPC. Like,
Okay.
once they finally install all of the water savings, all of the electricity savings, we're hoping they're not gonna hold the air conditioning. Since there's no savings involved in the air conditioning, we're hoping that HUD's gonna allow us to close it and start our EPC payments for the calendar year 2020.
So that will behoove the housing authority to,
We are starting to push our HUD local to start pushing HUD Washington to get what we need out of HUD, because they've had their information.
well, I was about to say, that would behoove the housing authority to make sure that the work is getting done in a timely manner so we can get the reimbursement back from HUD.
Correct. So last board meeting, you guys approved for Group 14 to have, I think we added $90,000 to their contract so they could come in and check.
Right.
So they came in the first week in December, I believe, and they checked all the works, said everything was good to go. We were missing a few things. I talked to the EPC contractor actually yesterday in the lobby, and they said they're going to be installing the
digital thermostats in the community centers, and that they've finished all of the electric and all of the water savings. So we're hoping to start rolling with HUD and have that for our 2020 calendar year subsidy.
All right.
That's all I can say, sir.
So just to kind of put it in practical terms though, it sounds like there was a gap between our HABD calendar year, the way we kind of have prepared things compared to how HUD then facilitates grant money coming in 2020.
Well, they kind of tricked us in 18 by making us give them back those chaps. And then they put a moratorium on issuing the chaps, and they gave them back to us in July of 2018. Had they given them in June of 2018, we would not have had this problem. But there was some guidance, and HUD would not issue any chaps during the moratorium while they were issuing the guidance. So, you know, he didn't tell you, but
There
we've
was a little
actually
gap.
appealed it. Yeah.
There was a gap with respect to Department of Housing and Urban Development in issuing the chaps. We were told in the front end
Yes.
that we follow the process. They would ensure that they will issue the chaps in a timely fashion so that it wouldn't be taught in the switches, and that's kind of what part of the issue.
Is that something that HUD said, okay, well, if you follow this process,
Right. We did exactly.
do we have that in
So
writing?
exactly. No, they would never. They came and spoke to us personally, but they would not put it in
But
writing.
we sent them a confirming.
We sent it to them in writing.
confirming-
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we sent them confirming information. The other thing that we did with respect is, on the front end, we asked for them to consider a waiver, which they would not. However, according to the regulations, we have the right to submit an appeal, and so we did that. And so we will be waiting for HUD to review our appeal. We had subject matter expert to assist us in writing this appeal. And so we submitted it, and hopefully we get a favorable response.
Mr.
If
Chair,
we
question.
Yeah, Dr. Hood.
So what are the consequences of the score? Does
It's
this mean anything?
really,
Is this?
it's really no consequences. It's paperwork, because what we believe is that within a couple months, they're gonna issue the score for 2019, and we're gonna be 80 points or above.
And they,
And so,
right, and our HUD local asked us for what we thought our scores would be and asked us to send proof of the scores. And they realized what happened, and they were, I'm not gonna say they went, "Oh," but they're not even gonna come and do a review. So normally, if you have this issue in any of them, they'll come out and do a review. They're not even planning to come and review.
But assuming those units get finished and HUD steps in beginning of 2020 with payments, then this issue should be corrected for the most part for
Going
2019.
forward, yes, because it will add $3 million worth of subsidy just to pay the debt service, and we pay about $3 million a year, so.
Right, but Dr. Hood asked the question, was the consequences? Well, our man was already thinking money,
No money consequences.
so no money consequences.
No, like I said, there's no consequence to it because it's still a standard performer, like we're still at 71. Had we been below 60, then then you're considered troubled. So there's like 4 high performer, standard performer, substandard performer in any one of the indicators, troubled, and then capital fund troubled. So it was substandard financial. And when we scored it, we're like 14.4, so they round down to 14. Had we been 14.5, a tenth of a point, we would have rounded up to 15. So I'm hoping in the appeal that they're going to look at it and make a change.
Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, and you explained that perfectly, better than I was gonna try to, but yeah, so, you know, the consequences is that for fiscal year 2018, the score was 71 out of 100. And the financial scored in the substandard financial category. That's what the numbers say. Now I know there's several factors driving the numbers, and I know we got appeals going and all, and I support that. But we can only go off what the numbers say, and that's what the numbers tell us right now. and we will have to operate off of what we have here, off of this is a 71 out of 100 for the fiscal years, and that's what we have to. That's what the score is the score.
It is the score.
Right.
It is the score for posting until they.
Right, until you get another one, that's what the score is.
Like it was 72 before they changed it, so.
I just didn't know if there are like penalties or,
No.
you know,
If you go below-
are we on a probation and?
Yeah. Well, yeah, like you said, if you go below
Heavy
60,
scrutiny and
Right.
stuff like
yeah,
that.
then you're in trouble.
No, that was my same question. But see, I don't like this low C either.
I understand, it's not like that,
I don't like this low C. That's too close to
To
going
me,
all
the
the way.
penalty is I have to come here and tell you.
Okay.
So that was the penalty for me.
There you go, well said.
All right, then, I'll do this next time I see you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. So my next item is Tuxedo Terrace audit report. And so, and on the 21st of October, we received an audit report for Tuxedo Terrace, which is one of our tax credit properties. And the report was the audit was done by the Alabama Housing Finance Authority, HFA. And as you know, the Tuxedo is a tax credit property, and it is subject to annual reviews and annual audits. And for several years, Tuxedo Terrace was under a third-party management company because one of the reasons the housing authority did not have the capacity to manage the site, and so we had to have a company or companies that had that experience. And so recently, we've been working on building up, shared with the board, ongoing building up our own experience so that we can begin to manage our own tax rate properties that we think we're just as good as some of these other companies. And the equity partner we've been working with them and sending them documents and what have you, and they recently gave us permission to begin managing our own property because we were able to show some capacity. So hats off to the staff for that. And but this particular audit that it occurred in September, and we began managing. The first day we began managing the property was in August of this year, and the audit was conducted September 26th for the previous year, and HFA reviewed 10 files, inspected apartments, and they found deficiencies relative to incorrect information in the files. There was also a apartment that did not comply with HFA's standards. There were some vacancies that were long-term that creates a problem, and it actually generated a 1-point deduction for 2020. What that really means is that if the housing authority itself wanted to submit an application to housing finance credit for 9% tax credit, it would lose a point. And so you'd be competing with other applications. And if we scored a 97 and the next, we were the top and the next applicant scored a 97, we would lose a point and we would be at 98. And so, unfortunately, we're working with partners and we won't be submitting an application on behalf of the Housing Authority for the low-income tax credit 9% allocation in 2020. We don't anticipate that we would do, but if we were to have done that, it would be that 1 point. And it rolls off after 2020. But that's how we do it.
You know, this and that, but yeah.
No, go ahead.
So in other words, we have to suffer the consequences for somebody else?
So we are, we still have a ownership position. And this is our, for lack of a better term, contractor that's managing the site. And we have some oversight responsibility. What we've been doing, we've been working with the third-party management firm. And like I said, in August, we took over the management. The other thing I want to share with you is that So we responded, they gave us a time frame to respond, and we submitted our response in a timely fashion. I think it was November 15th, and we had to address all that information attached to the back of the report. The initial letter of the audit, you got some of the things that they outlined. We did not give you a copy, you got a copy of what we submitted to them as well. And then they reviewed all of our information that was submitted, and they wrote us a letter and said that we were now in compliance. And they were grateful or thankful that we were now in compliance. And so we are now at a point where we are managing the site. I'm very confident that we're going to be able to meet all these, to manage it in a way that we won't experience this again, because much of it is just basic property management. It's, collect the rent, cut the grass, make sure the files are in place, that kind of thing, and we are building capacity as we speak, and so we want to do that with some of our other tax credit properties as well as we go forward.
Mr. Chairman, help me understand this tax credit thing. I know what it means. So we resubmit for another tax credit, and Mr. Lundy just told us about we already going in with a deficit with a amount of one, so to speak. Help me understand how do we come out of this deficit?
Yeah. So
I don't understand if it's gonna hinder us from, being in a competitive range,
yeah.
with that deficit on us.
Well, one of the things that I would like to discuss is moving forward on any of these tax credit properties that we may be looking to entertaining on the front end. When we make an agreement with going into a joint venture with these developers, that we try to maintain some control and start managing some of our tax credit properties on the front end. But that's gonna have to happen up front, because once the agreement is done, then of course, it's already gone. But, like Mr. Lundy, you said, I think our staff can manage these properties. And what I'm concerned about is that moving forward, half of our portfolio is gonna be tax credit properties.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first thing I'm concerned about are jobs. So if half our portfolio is going toward tax credit properties, then now third party is going to be managing our properties. So now that eliminates jobs for our folks, rather than us managing our own properties and keeping those jobs, or maybe adding jobs. And I think, for the most part, from what I've seen, our staff does as good or better job than the third party.
Right.
And that's just what I've seen, I've heard from the residents.
Yes.
The lack of attention that these third parties pay to our residents. And so I'm not a big fan of third party management right now. They haven't proven to me that they do a good job. And this report bears it out with Tuxedo, just showing that those deficiencies that cost us down the line.
Mr. Chair, what percentage, or Mr. Lundy, what percentage of our properties are under third party versus the ones that we manage?
So, in the tax credit properties, it's about all of them, with the exception.
All the third party
We got
managed?
Park Place,
Park Place, Glenwood,
Glenbrook,
yeah.
those are the two that are,
Do we have another? Yeah,
well, those are tax credits, and then we have Collegeville and Ben Green that we have third party.
And then, City Drive.
And are all those managed by the same third party?
We gotta have some decorum here. Let's have some decorum. Okay, go ahead.
Are all these managed by the same third party?
No. And we have some public housing units that are third-party management too. Through Benjamin Green,
Collegeville.
Collegeville. That's it? Yeah.
I would love to see a report, community by community, who is managing what units, what the contract looks like, when the contract is set to expire, and I think that can help us moving forward and develop a strategy on this.
That's fine. And I wanted to sort of go back to some comments that the chairman is correct. We think that we can do just do a better job in most instances. The challenge, and with the housing finance authorities, have to understand, they're looking for I guess they're looking for certainty in the market. And so they've got these investors that are investing, these wealthy people investing their funds into the low-income tax credit system, and they want to be able to write off their investment. And so the Housing Finance Authority, whatever state you're in, they need to make sure that the property, when they give award you those tax credits, that those properties go to stabilization through the planning, the construction, and the lease up, and collecting of the rent. And so there's a critical path that you have to meet these different milestones. And right at this point in time, not so sure that we've reached that level of capacity. We're getting there, because with Tuxedo Terrace, we're getting there. Like, for example, with Southtown Court, we have in all of our agreements that we have the option to begin managing at some point, perhaps at the point of stabilization.
Yeah, it was after stabilization.
At stabilization, which may be 3-4 years, that we could take over. Heretofore, we didn't have that in some of the other, like we don't have that in Park Place. It's just, they've got it all. And I don't know if we have it in Glenbrook.
No.
And so, as we move forward, we're putting those options in place so that as we build capacity, perhaps we'll get to a point, the goal is to get to the point that we can submit our own tax credit application and be able to have, and to be able to manage those and develop those under the structure of the house.
But it is in Farrington's. It is in
It
Farrington.
is in Farrington now.
Yes.
Farrington is one, that's exactly right, that's our first one. That's why it's so important that we were able to get the approval to manage our own property in Tuxedo. So Farrington will be able to go in and start managing those units.
Okay. Mr. Lundy, just so I'm clear to follow up on Dr. Hood's request, when you provide kind of the list of properties and who's managing what,
Okay.
can you kind of give us an idea what you're talking about as far as the capacity that you would need to manage, say, per unit, a certain structure, so that we can know exactly what, what's realistic at this stage?
I will.
Yeah, because, one of the things that, and I get that on the tax credits, I know that there has to be some stabilization takes place. It's a joint venture. You got equity partners, so I know you got a lot of moving pieces. But on properties like Collegeville and Ben Green, those aren't tax credit properties. So I think we do have the capacity to manage those, but we've done it before.
Yeah.
And so we have staff that can manage those properties. And so maybe that's something that we could look into.
I agree.
Oh, so just to be clear, is that something by next meeting we can get?
So, for the next meeting?
That
Yes,
report?
yes, that'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, the next meeting we'll have that. And so we're gonna, we'll get a list of all third-party management, agreements we have, those properties, where they are, number of units. We'll also give you a summary of their duties, expectations, that kind of thing, and maybe a little bit about the outcomes, what we envision, what the concerns are.
What about expiration?
Expiration of the
Term,
contract.
term of the contract, yeah, term.
Thank you.
Some of them won't have terms. I'm saying the ones that are like, through a tax credit deal that were set 10 years ago. So you do want like maybe the R&O or the partnership agreement or something? Is that, okay.
Sure. I just want to know, are we on any kind of obligation, and could we at some
yes.
point just go ahead and switch and start doing?
On some
property
projects, we
management?
could, yes,
Okay.
we could.
Yeah.
On some of the other ones, we probably would be hard. We'll have to try to negotiate our way out of it. But, it's not.
I know an attorney.
Go read my mind. On point,
I was just waiting.
How bold board come together already thinking. Man, you hit me on the head. Okay, let's go to the deal. One last, so that's that. And then, HABD, Real Estate Development Partnership with Woodlawn Foundation. I want to give you an update regarding that. As you know, the Housing Authority has been in partnership with Woodlawn Foundation to develop affordable rental units and homeownership housing for sale. Over the past several months, the Housing Authority has been working with its partnership with Woodlawn Foundation and the National Community Reinvestment Coalition, which is NCRC, to develop 20 housing units, and 8 of those housing units would be rental cottages with 9 being townhomes for sale, and then 1 single-family house for sale. And through our partnership with NCRC, the 9 townhomes and the 1 single-family house home will be built and sold by NCRC. And while the 8 rental units will be built and managed by Woodlawn Foundation, as I understand it, at this point. Over the past year, the Housing Authority worked closely with our partners to identify and apply for necessary resources to fund the development initiative. And so in March of this year, we, through our partnership, we provided a support letter to assist the Woodlawn Foundation in being successful in seeking and obtaining funds from the Alabama Housing Finance Authority in amount somewhere around $900,000 through the Housing Trust Fund. And recently, the Housing Authority, through our partnership, we approached the city of Birmingham and requested additional dollars to fill a gap that we had in the project. And so the Woodlawn Foundation took the lead as we met with city officials on the Community Development Department to begin the application process. And we just recently learned a couple of weeks ago that the foundation was awarded through the city of Birmingham $1 million to help close the gap. So we're really excited about what we've been able to accomplish as a partnership. And at this point, we're really close to moving forward with the construction of the affordable housing initiative. And so just want to take an opportunity to publicly thank my staff and Corey Stallworth in particular for pushing this process forward. And so just want to give that here. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lynn. I have a question, concerning, I know that the Woodlawn Foundation, Mr. Starr gave a report last month, and I know we did refer, part of it was the voucher piece that we just talked about, that we referred back to committee, and I think we maybe have some other issues that we need to work through. But what I want to know is as part of this agreement, where does the Housing Authority stand financially as part of this partnership? I know that the vouchers are a part of it, that they're looking to receive vouchers, but other than the vouchers, is there any other financial commitment from the Housing Authority?
So at this point, and I'll have Mr. Stallworth fill in anything that I missed, but at this point, we've helped in terms of supporting them and going forward with applications to get funding. We've used our engineering services to help with some of the design. Okay, Corey Stallworth.
So the development is a development as a whole, but it's split. So you have the rental cottages which the Woodlawn Foundation will be constructing. The Housing Authority, in partnership with NCRC, is responsible for the homeownership units. As Mr. Lundy said, we provided support for them to send a letter to AHFA saying that we do have vouchers that we could support that project with. But we have not put any dollars into the cottages that they're constructing. design process has been separate. So we paid our own consultant and design firm to do the civil work for the houses, as well as the architect to do the drawings for those houses, but we did not participate in the cottages portion.
So I guess my question is, what was the financial injection that we have made to this project? Because I know there was some type of MOU that we did, I know a while back, but I can't recall those, did we vote on a dollar amount or amount that we're going to be spending on this project?
So the MOU just basically states a partnership that we would kind of use this land that the Woodlawn Foundation has to construct some home ownership units on that particular parcel.
Right, so I'm saying, who authorized the funds? Because I know we did, who authorized the funds?
We haven't given any.
Yeah, there haven't been any funds been released for any of it right now.
Okay, well, I thought you said that you hired an architect to do the design. So I know the architect has to be compensated.
Right, so that was done through our IDQ contract, our indefinite quantity contract, and those were preliminary conceptual drawings that we initiated to come up with a product with NCRC. So that's a partnership between NCRC and HABD.
Okay, all right, well, I've got a lot of questions, but because my thing is that if this is a joint venture, I need to know what the housing authority, what's going to be the financial burden to the housing authority. And so I have some major concerns. Also, I mean, my thing is that if the housing, if there is going to be if there's a partnership and there's going to be some type of financial commitment from the housing authority, then I think that the board needs to know what that commitment is. At least, you know, in advance of approving any vouchers or any, you know, any finances. I think that needs to take place on the front end.
So, and I just want to add, as I stated in my report at the last meeting, the only obligation that we would have with the Woodlawn Foundation would be the acquisition of the land for the parcel that's needed to build the homeownership units.
Okay, so we got about, so we're acquiring the property.
Right.
What's that amount?
So that would be $100,000. So that's what I stated at the last.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess my question always gonna be, if we're gonna acquisition that kind of money, you know, for the property, which means that they're going to build some homes, apartments, and our resident will be able to rent or buy.
That'll be 12 units to be.
12 units. And the money will go to the marketing community on the property that we bought.
So the actual lot prices would actually, the acquisition price would actually be included in lot prices, which would be divided up amongst the 12 units.
Okay, I get that. I'm trying to find out, I know we'll be getting out of, being out of, you know, doing some for our residents. Now I'm trying to see what are we gonna get back in terms of either financial reimbursements or financial gain is what I'm trying to be very subtle with it.
So I guess first of all, we're able to get a market rate product for a low cost. So as Mr. Lundy stated, the Housing Authority, in our relationship with NCRC, the Housing Authority was actually responsible for all of the infrastructure work. So we approached the city in partnership with the Woodlawn Foundation, and that cost has been covered. So we don't have to do any infrastructure work at this point. We also can participate in any returns through the sale of these houses.
Now you're talking. You found a gap there. I'm through with it.
So I just want to make sure that we're clear for the, is this 12 houses?
It's 12, so it'll be 11 townhouses and 1 single family.
And these are dedicated strictly for our public housing residents?
So at this point, we're looking at dividing it in half. So we wanted to do half of them for our homeownership residents that are in the homeownership program, as well as look at opportunities to sell some of these at market rate costs. We're also are approaching other banks to identify subsidy that can help bring down the purchase price for the homeownership participants.
Okay. All right, well, we're gonna discuss this matter further because we got some other issues, but that's good enough. Thank you. All right. Okay, all right, very good. All right, we're down to our procurement outreach report presentation by Mr. Michael Bell and the BCIA. While Mr. Bell is coming, one thing I neglected to mention was at the next board meeting in January, we're going to have the CPAB give an annual report. So they'll kind of give us a snapshot of what the year looked like for them, some of the upcoming events that they have and projects that they want to see. This is something that actually we got from training. When I was in training, they do this all across the country at other housing authorities where the CPAB gives an annual report to the board as to what needs to take place in their communities, what they want to see in their communities. And I think from just talking to my colleagues across the country, it works well because the board gets to get a chance to see exactly what the residents want to see versus, maybe just getting it from a second and third hand, from, maybe a staff report or something of that nature. We get it directly from the leadership. So that's going to take place in January. And hopefully what I'd like to do is maybe do like on a quarterly basis, get quarterly updates where we are with with those projects and what the board can do to help assist with moving those projects forward. Okay, very good. All right. Mr. Bell, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. And thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Chairman, to the commissioners, Mr. London, staff, and residents. I want to thank you for this opportunity to tell you about BCIA. And but before I get into that, I just want to say congratulations to Ms. Jackson. She is an example of true servant leadership in our community. And I've served on several boards over time, and sometimes board service is thankless. You don't get a lot of thanks for serving on a board, and board members come and go. But when you've done a good job and your peers acknowledge the job that you've done, and you guys have put a sign on this room in honor of that, that's a great thing, and it should be acknowledged. And I know in the past, a board situation down in Montgomery, they had a meeting at 12 o'clock, and at 2 o'clock they were taking the name off the building rather than putting the name on the building. It came down very quickly. So sometimes it's a thankless job, but Ms. Jackson is the antithesis of that. She's a very, very strong advocate for the Housing Authority and also for minority contractors. She was always one to ask to make sure that we did the right thing. And when you get somebody to tell you, now let me tell you something, you need to be listening to what she got to say. When she leaves off of it, I want to tell you something. We have a long relationship with HABD going back to directors and executive directors, rather, such as Pat Hogan Moore, Jerome Ryan, Ralph Ruggs, and Ms. Truman. And so we're not new to the whole process. We know things about HABD and how you operate. We also have worked most recently, and that being over the last couple of years, with Carl Edwards in procurement, Ms. Jackie French, who's back there with her tam on, and Mr. Stallworth, and he walked, oh, there he is back there, in real estate development. Also over the years, we've worked with Fairfield Housing Authority, Jefferson County Housing Authority, Bessemer Housing Authority, and on one occasion with the Tuscaloosa Housing Authority. Kim Bivens is here with me today. She is our Associate Director Kim has her master's degree in construction management, and we're very fortunate to have her at BCIA because she wears a lot of hats and she does a lot of things, and she really gets us into more work than I'd like to do, but she's a workaholic, and she's going to be dedicated even more so to helping HABD out in the things that we're hoping to do with you guys. Just a little history. The BCIA was established in 1990, so we've been around just about 30 years in the Birmingham community. And it was established as part of the Birmingham plan. At the time, it was a creation of a new MBE, DBE program, and goals were established for those projects, especially the City of Birmingham projects, in the range of 27 to 33% participation. The program was for minority and disadvantaged businesses in the local construction industry, and we provide certification, training and development, MBE, WBE, DBE participation tracking systems, monitoring construction activity for opportunity, and also, that's not up there, we advocate for the contractors, and we also participate in dispute mediation. This morning we were in a meeting with the City of Birmingham, and we were in discussion about roughly 500 projects that we have tracked for the City of Birmingham, and this is over 2018 and 2019. So we participate in a lot of construction activity and certainly understand the activity that the Housing Authority has. Like I said, we monitor and track local construction activity, offer training programs, advocate, and maintain a plan room of active project planning specifications. That's one of the things that Corey does, as well as Carl, is they send us HABD projects to our plan room, and contractors have the opportunity to review those and participate in bidding on those projects. We also have a certification program. Yes, we also have a certification program that we identified, and this is very important. You want to know who the beneficiaries are of the efforts that you take when you decide that you're going to use minority or disadvantaged businesses. And it's sad here in 2019, almost 2020, we still have people who identify themselves as disadvantaged businesses, and they're not. We have a lot of fronts, as they call them, that are still being perpetrated across the industry to take advantage of programs where they shouldn't. So we have a certification process that identifies bona fide companies to participate. So far, 715 companies have participated in our certification program. This is a plan room summary. This is our weekly publication that we send out to all the contractors that are in our database. And we keep them updated with information about projects. And this is just a cover sheet on it, but this goes out every Friday to every contractor in our database, and it has a list of projects and opportunities, and HABD projects are included in that summary. We also have the education program that offers these topics. We also survey contractors to see what their needs are, and if there's something that we're not offering and they need it, we try to figure out how to offer it. One of the things that's very important is the OSHA, and it's not listed on there, but the OSHA safety program. Oftentimes, every employee on a contract has to have an OSHA 10-hour card, and we make that possible by holding those type of seminars so the contractors can get that 10-hour card, and that's very important when you're on a commercial job site. Again, this is our training program. That's the flyer for the 2020 training program. And I'm going to tie all this together, but I just want you to see the basic things that we do. This is part of our compliance program. This is one of the forms. We have a series of forms that are used when we monitor and track projects. Now, this particular one is the closeout form, and it's used to summarize the DBE, MBE participation on the project. And that's just one of our forms in a series of forms that we have. Section 3. One of the things we know is that Section 3 is very important to HABD. You guys talk about it all the time, and we understand that it's very important. One of the things that we like to keep as our mantra for this is meeting people where they are. Oftentimes we present Section 3 residents and business concerns with opportunities that we think that they want, that we think that they can fit into, but never talk to them about the opportunities that they would like to pursue based on their talent and resources. So we want to meet people where they are. And as you know who the Section 3 beneficiaries are. But we'd like to harvest national programs to tailor fit for Birmingham. We'd like to provide a internal infrastructure to support the program. One suggestion would be a business registry. I think that there is a way for contractors to sign up to do business with HABD, but it's not an active plan, it's a sign up. And we would suggest, as example, an active plan followed up by information that is submitted to HUD on Form 60,002. That's your annual report that goes to HUD. Section 3 businesses, and that should be 51%, sorry about that typo, 51% owned by a Section 3 resident. Businesses with a staff of 30% of Section 3 residents are considered, and also businesses that commit to a subcontract of 25% of the total contract award. It has gotten better, and I'd like to acknowledge Ms. French and what she does, because it has gotten better on the Section 3 side. But in the past, there have been instances where it has not been in compliance, I just put it that way. The Section 3 program has not been in compliance, particularly on the large contracts with the major contractors and developers. It has not been in compliance, and I've been in arguments in the past about giving those people passes. And I get shut down sometimes because I want to shut down those contractors. And I probably don't make a lot of friends in what I do. I'll just tell you that, because sometimes it's like board service, it's thankless sometimes. But if the rule is the rule, then we all need to follow the rule. So we try to work towards that. We think we should work to the greatest extent feasible to include the Section 3 program and the beneficiaries of that. In some ways you can do that. One suggestion would be through examples of 30% new hires annually, 10% of your total dollar amount on construction contract, and 3% of the total non-construction contracts, and that's in procurement. And that's just an example. Just by setting those goals, you can get traction on and letting the public know that you're serious about your Section 3 program. And of course, accountability. If you don't meet those goals, there needs to be a good reason why you don't meet those goals. So we would like to maintain a database, and we do, that RWA is ready, willing, and able contractors. You can have a list of contractors that's a mile long, but if none of them are ready, willing, and able to do business with you, you really don't have anything. BCI maintains relationships with contractors. That's one of the big things about us. We know the local contractors, we know their capabilities, we know what they're working on right now, we know whether they're certified or not. So we would propose, if given an opportunity, to help you to increase the contractors in your HABD database. Some of the current contractors in our database that are working for HABD include Galley Construction, T&F Electric, Trawick Contractors, who are working on the Freedom Manor project, and D&D installation. And we also worked with Amoresco when they were looking to form their team on the energy packages that they have. We work with them very quietly behind the scenes to give them a base of minority contractors. This is an advertisement for Freedom Manor, just to show you how we advertise the project. And I'm sorry it's so small, but you do have a slide on that. But that just shows you what we would send out for a project. and that is the project description, the completion, when a bid meeting is going to be, and other pertinent information. And we do that right now for housing authority projects. This is a project referral, and this is a real conversation. We were contracted by Thomas Land Clearing Company, and I'll just read it to you if it's so small you can't see it. Good afternoon, Mr. Bell. We just wanted to follow up with you in regards to hearing back from Ms. Roberts regarding the Loveland Village demolition project. She had made contact with Mr. Thomas, and she indicated that a gentleman from Doug Hollahan Realty would email us the plans for this project so that we can provide a proposal. As of this morning, that has not happened. We were hoping that you could assist us in finding out who else may be bidding this project so we can contact them directly. I have left a message with the Birmingham Housing Authority as well to this regard. Your assistance is greatly appreciated, Ms. Bernice Antimo. My response was, dear, hello Bernice, there are no other bidders on this project. Hollahan was selected as the developer for this project. They are also the GC. I would reach out to Ms. Roberts and let her know that you haven't heard from her contact at Hollahan. I wouldn't contact the HABD again about it for now. We handle a lot of things like that you guys never hear about. But things are happening in the background to where we're trying to manage and help people to get access to these opportunities. But that's just an example of a typical situation to where we try to help a contractor to get information and get access. So we want to encourage you, and I'm just about to the end here, we want to encourage you all to think out of the box. One way you can think out of the box is, rather than getting businesses to come to do business with you, let's reach out to those businesses and assist them. You can establish a small business assistance program, and that would help you to develop relationships with local businesses, to instill that HABD cares about their business, and HABD is a place businesses want to pursue business opportunities. Another one, tell everybody that HABD is open for business. I would hope that we could develop a media plan. I know you have media partners, but develop a media plan to target contractors and suppliers, target local businesses in known databases. There are several databases out there that we tap into, and we certainly could bring that depth to you guys to use it as well. Also schedule procurement lunch and learn events to deliver information on upcoming projects and procurement opportunity. I think there's a way that HABD advertises their projects. I know they do it through us, but I think they're posted and they're also placed in the newspaper. I don't know how many people read newspapers now, but there are more modern, up-to-date social media type ways that you guys can advertise and contact people. You can also commit to national best practices in Section 3 and in contracting strategies by setting goals for the program, whether they're numeric, aspirational, programmatic, or project-specific goals. You can also establish a business community task force to provide feedback on policy, on opportunity, on program feasibility for community buy-in. Non-traditional market canvassing. Again, this is identifying contractors that don't right now do business with HABD, professional service providers as well, and introduce them to the process. This would discourage vendor staleness and complacency. We know that you guys use a handful of architects on all your projects. It's a handful. The same names come up all the time about your projects, on your projects. We want to get new competition in, establish new business relationships, and give others an opportunity on those projects. BCIA understands your procurement challenges, and we want to do something to help you do something about it, just to put it mildly. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Procurement and contracting issues, particularly inclusion It's a difficult thing, and a lot of people don't spend a lot of time with it. You guys have talked about many things up here today, just in this meeting. And this is just another issue as part of business that we would hope that you would give some priorities to. But I heard you talk about a couple of projects, the Farrington project, I believe, and there was one other one. Excuse me just a second. There's a Farrington and...
That was the tennis field.
Yes. I think that was it. You talking about opportunities just in your general conversations. I looked around in here and I was wondering who did this artwork in here?
His wife.
Your wife? That's fantastic. I was hoping it was a Section 3 person, because we're gonna help them get into business, whoever it is, but we'll help your wife though. We'll help her. Because all these buildings that you guys are getting ready to build, and Southtown, and all these developments, there's gonna be some artwork going in there. And we need to go ahead and get her or somebody established in that, but that's an opportunity.
I'm sorry, Ms. Bill, she's busy designing cakes right now.
Well, maybe we can help somebody else. We're gonna help somebody. But the managing of properties, that's what it was. That's a great opportunity. And I've seen where you turn over the management of these, of your properties, and those companies don't look back. They don't look back in our community. They don't look back to see if we can cut the grass, if we can paint, if we can do deliveries for them. It's a whole different ballgame. A lot of times they come from out of town. Some of those managers are from out of town. And we just believe that we can help because our ears are keen to those opportunities. And again, just hearing you guys talk, I believe we can help you with that. But we want to partner with you guys in a more formal way. And I thank you for the opportunity to present, and look forward to working with you on not only general projects, but the development projects as well. Any questions?
Yeah, I would just say that I serve on the Industrial Development Board, which is a agency that offer incentives to people who are relocating or retention projects for companies. When I first got on the board, I know Carol served with me as well. When I first got on the board, we were approving deals, and we would ask the person that was asking for the incentive about minority participation, like, it was just like, it really wasn't a good faith effort. We'd ask about the number of jobs that are going to be created, where are you going to be recruiting for people for these jobs? Are you going to be going to Lawson, Jeff State? So we came up with a different process to where before you come to us, if you haven't sat down and made a good faith effort to have a conversation with BCIA and Michael Bell, that's going to weigh heavily on our decision. And then we started inviting Mr. Bell to come to those meetings. And I think that really made a big difference. So they know that they would sit down with Mr. Bell, and Mr. Bell would help them identify, different contractors and vendors that they could partner with. And so, I know I'm new to this board, but I would certainly welcome something similar to where making sure that on our contracts, if they make a good faith effort to work with agencies like a BCIA, I think that could go a long way in making sure that we have more inclusive participation on our projects.
Yes, very good.
I agree with Dr. Hood just shared, and because there has been in the past a question that continued to arise, how many minority business are participating in some of these larger projects. And what I learned today, just out of your presentation, Mr. Bell, is the energy y'all put in to help get those guys certified. Because there have been times in the past where some of the minority contractors would say that they tried to get into the housing authority, but they didn't know how to do the simple paperwork and make things happen. So I was very impressed about the certification part, and then hearing what you say, you help them connect to other places. So I think this would be a great venue for us to start looking at as a resource from this board perspective to make sure that our minority contractors are inclusive to a lot of things that we do. Definitely game for that.
very good. Thank you, Mr. Bill. One of the things that, you know, when I first got on this board, and Vice Chairman Todd, I think you sensed my frustration with what I would receive as stall tactics, disingenuity from a lot of these contractors when we would ask about minority participation, and they would simply say, well, we can't find any qualified, you know, whether it's a, you know, electrician or plumber, you know, and so that really aggravated me when I would hear contractors tell us that, you know, and I know that they didn't make a good faith effort. I knew in my heart that they didn't, but I didn't have the proof to corroborate that, you know, that point, but I felt it in my gut, and I think that we have to get to where we have some type of process in place, clearinghouse, if you will, that these contractors understand these are the rules, these are the playing rules, and we want you to abide by the rules, and to take it a step further to provide opportunities for our residents and minority contractors. So, good presentation, Mr. Bell. What I would like to do, you got something?
You know, and I'm just being a little facetious in the sense, you know, of all these projects, you trying to tell me we can't find a minority that cannot pour some cement? Yeah, well, being to pour some cement, that's a lot of work. And that's not hiring some people. I'm talking about some of the simple things that we know that minority contractors can do. I know we can do greater things. I'm just saying, it shouldn't be no aggravation, shouldn't be a whole lot of struggles of trying to get minorities in some of these big projects, especially if they're gonna come through your services to help them get certified. So I'm definitely impressed with this, and I want to see more faith effort from this board to make sure that we make that happen.
Yeah.
Mr. Todd, sometimes they really don't know. You know, people deal with people in their network, and those folks are just not in network, they don't know. But I mean, that's what BCIA does all day, every day, is they build those networks, those contracts, they make it easy for them. So.
Right. And one thing that you touched on that I've brought up a couple times is that sometimes the numbers can be a little bit misleading when you look at the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that I've noticed with us is that for the minority participation, it seems to be the same people over and over, right? So the same contractors get, you know, and so I don't know if there's not any bidding on this work. That we're gonna have to take a deeper dive to see, but I see the same names over and over and over again when it comes to minority participation. And you know, I want to say on the construction side, I think it was one company that probably received about 70-75% of the total overall, you know, participation when it came to minority contracts. It went to, you know, so, and that's not to say anything disparaging about their company because they're a minority company, and to my knowledge, they do a good job. What I'm saying is I think we need to widen the net and provide opportunities for anybody that wants to do business with the Housing Authority of the Birmingham District.
And if you widen the net, you're gonna increase competition, and that's gonna bring you better prices on all of your work when you do that. And if I can say in parting, Mr. Todd, you have to be intentional about this. You can't just wait to see if it's gonna happen. You gotta be intentional, and you gotta be consistent with what you put out there. And once people get the message that you guys are serious about this, that you are intentional in what you're doing, and you are gonna be consistent, they get the message because they want the business. They want the business. So it starts with you guys and of course, Mr. Lundy. So if we can help, we'd love to help you guys with that. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
And you guys have a great holiday season.
All right, thank you. You as well. Thank you very much. And while he's breaking down, what I would like to do is that I would like to refer this matter to the real estate committee to further this discussion, to see how we can craft some type of document so we can kind of drill down a little bit and see how we can move on from this discussion, right, and to put something in writing where we can kind of, you know, guidelines and track some of this stuff. So, all right, very good. All right, are there any other discussion that we need to have before we move on? Okay, all right. All right, so we're down to financial services, so we have a presentation of June low-income financial report for the period ending October 31st. Mr. Lundy.
Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, Commissioners, we have 4 items, and we have my Vice President of Financial Services, CFO, Ms. Carolyn Anderson.
Good afternoon. So the first item is the financial statements, and these are as of October 31st. This is all public housing and central office. And if there's a number running down the right side of the page, I'm gonna tell you that's just a variance that's more than 10%, and I'll tell you what that's made up from. So number 1 is other income, and it's under budget. You may or may not know that the city removed the housing authority from its budget, and we budgeted for the city. They normally give us like $160,000 to do our community centers. They didn't do that this year, and we didn't find out until after we'd already taken the budget in. Number 2, insurance proceeds are under budget. This is the fire damage units that are going on, so we go ahead and pay for the fire damage units, and then once the units are complete, the insurance company reimburses us. So they're in the process of completing the units, so probably within a few months we'll get our check from the insurance company, and our income will be up. Number 3, office expenses are under budget, and really all I can put it down to is like paper usage has gone down at the housing authority. I think we're trying to be a little bit more cautious of just printing things out and throwing them away. Maybe we care about the trees, I do. Number 4, tenant participation. So this is tenant services resident participation funds, and for our new commissioners, each resident council is allotted a certain amount of money from HUD. And so this is that particular resident council asking us for the money, and as of this point in time, we had paid none of our resident councils any of the money for the current year. I do have at least one resident council that has asked for their money in the month of December. So I know by December I'm gonna have something. Number 5 is gas. Gas is under budget. Winter really hadn't started in October. And number 6 is contract costs, and our contract costs generally are over budget at this time because we're paying to do our fiscal inspection, so we know our FOS score's coming, so we're really pushing hard to make sure everything looks pristine as they can look for a 1937 property, but as pristine as we can get it, so that when they walk on site, it looks good. So we kind of spend more of our budget at the beginning of the fiscal year than we will towards the middle of the fiscal year. And number 7 is capital assets addition. So when I spoke about the fire damage units, these are the fire damage units. So we've put in like $265,000 in fire damage units, but we haven't received the money back from it. So, and we're basically at, I hate to say it, but a net profit of about $425,000. We budget almost a net zero, so by the time we get further into our fiscal year, we're going to probably get closer to the zero. I haven't made any debt service payments or anything, but I do accrue them. And that's it for the financials. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. All right. The next 2 are tenant write-offs. Do you want me to do them together, Commissioner, or separate? They are 2 separate resolutions.
Yeah, we'll do it separate.
Okay. The first one is as of October 30th. So these are the October write-offs, $54,106.58. Of that, $38,700 is from rent. $260 is from late fees. So see, our late fees are slowly moving off. $4,600 in maintenance charges, $11,435 in legal fees. No retro rent this month. And then the fees that occurred after the issuance of the writ
we're about 11,500, so that's moving down for us. And I did put in a new graph for you, or new comparison, so that you could compare where we were in fiscal year 19 compared to fiscal year 2020. Because I still kept the rolling one, because I know as soon as I remove it, somebody's gonna ask me to put it back. So I kept the rolling one, so if you were comparing a whole year to a whole year, as of now, we would be a little bit above. But if you compare fiscal year to fiscal year, we're actually below where we were last year. And then I did like a percentage of what month was up, what month was down compared to the previous year at that same time. And we're down about 18% through the month of October. And of course, you have your graph. These are all for, just saying it for our new commissioners so they would know. We have our actual graph so that you can see, you know, how it looked on a bar graph, basically. And that is the month of October.
All right. If I can entertain a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept, approve, the write-off as stated.
Been moved and properly second, all in favor? All opposed? All right, that item's approved.
All right, thank you, commissioners. The month of November, the total is $47,711. Of that, $30,000 is rent. We don't have any late fees. $2,100 is maintenance charges, $11,000 for legal fees. We have $5,200 in retro rent. Retro rent is when the tenant commits fraud to the agency and underreports their income. We have to go and back charge them for it. And we rarely collect it. They generally choose to move out because it's sizable. And the fees that occurred after issuance of the writ is almost $8,300 out of the $47,000. So sheriff's still evicting very well for us and very quickly. Now, so same comparison, same chart. We're still under budget compared to the prior fiscal year. And now instead of being 18% under prior year, we're now 21% under the prior year. We're down about $70,000 if you're comparing fiscal year to fiscal year. Okay?
All right. If I can entertain a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the charge, right
Been moved and properly second, all in favor? All opposed? All right, that item's approved.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Before we move on to the next, I just want to add this as on the financial services, that we were supposed to have where it was on the agenda that the external auditor would give their report. That will be hopefully for next month. The board made a request that the internal auditor review these documents and give a report to the audit committee. And then the audit committee will give the okay to bring it before this body at the next board meeting. So you do have a copy of the audit for your review. All right, that's y'all homework. So y'all read that. Yeah, but it will go to the internal auditor. I think she already has a copy, and then she will meet with the audit committee, and then it will come before us for us to approve. Yes. All right. Very good. Just want to note that.
Mr. Chairman, when at the next board meeting, we ask the auditor to come to the meeting to make a presentation.
Yes.
I mean, the company that did the audit.
Right. Yeah. That
Okay.
next month will be good. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Very good. All right. So now we have presentations by person desiring to speak before the HABD Board of Commissioners. Mr. Knight.
Good evening, how everyone doing?
Right. Good evening.
I'm here, Mr. President Warren Simpson, Vice President of CPA. Again, what I'm about to say, I don't want nobody to take this personal. Mr. Lundy, something was said a couple of years ago, and I took a lot from it. I like you, I like this board, I like Housing Authority, I like everything about what I've done. You were on the news, Mr. Lundy, and you were asked, could you live in Morton Simpson? and you lean back, and you did like this, and you said no. When residents don't want to come and live in public housing, it's one thing when people who don't know public housing and don't understand that people in public housing don't want to live. But when you have your executive director say he can live, that hurt. And for almost a year and a half, I would hear my residents ask me that. They keep asking me, when are we gonna get redeveloped? When are we gonna do this? When are we gonna do that? There's been pain, and I thank the board, I really do. You got to understand this is sincerely coming from my heart. I love y'all for putting Morton Simpson on the rag, for voting Morton Simpson on the rag. But I'm asking Mr. Lundy, I'm asking the Board of Commissioners, I'm asking Section 3, I'm asking the FSS to know January the 9th, 2020, I'll be having a town hall meeting. And I'm inviting our CEO and Board of Commissioners, Section 3, FSS, to please come out and answer some of the questions to these residents that I cannot answer. And let them know that Morton Simpson is a place that you can live. Not just Morton Simpson, but every public housing authority site. It's a place that I grew up in that I call home. And I tell all my residents, and I've heard this, I don't want to live in Morton Simpson. I don't want to stay here. I want to go. This is what I hear in Morton Simpson. And I have to tell my residents, it's not where you from, it's where you at. You may not be out of Kingston, you may not be from Morton Simpson, but right now, this is where your children have to call home. That's what I call home when my mama moved in there in 1980. And here I am president, I've been fighting 5 years. I love everything that Housing Authority is doing. But we need to let people know that public housing is a place where you can come and live. We want you to live. We want you to know that it's okay to call public housing your home and not be afraid to say, hey, I can't live there. I don't want to live there. No. 2020 and henceforth on is about the people in public housing who live there. Some are afraid, some aren't. And you have 14 sites, and I am proud to say that I am happy to see the changes you have brought, Mr. Lane. I'm proud of Mr. Cardell, who I met at Lawson when I was running for referee, Ms. Lewis, Mr. Todd, to the new commissioners, welcome. And I thank my leader for staying on me, Ms. Bertha Davis, and showing me and telling me what I need to do to be a better leader. To Ms. Lewis, I love you, I thank you for staying on me these 5 years when I wanted to quit and walk away. Thank you, Ms. Davis. Thank you, Ms. Jackie French. Thank you, Ms. Jefferson. I'm tearing up, but I'm happy right now because I have seen change in public housing. And I would love to continue being a resident of public housing and letting people know that it is okay to live in public housing. I thank everybody for the hard work that you do. And it's people like me, they may not come here and see it, but they do appreciate it. And there are some who don't. But for those who do, I want to say thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Knighton. Keep up the fight, man. Keep the word up. Yep, Mr. Lumpkin.
I have opportunity. I just want to respond just a little bit in terms of something you said earlier, Mr. Knighton. I appreciate your comments, and I love working with you. As you know, back in the summer we had a male summit, Man's Summit, African American Male Summit. And the first time that's happened, to my knowledge, here at the House of Birmingham District, and you and I agreed that we want to do this on an ongoing basis to say to African American males, if you want to be a part of the family, we want you to be part of the family. But we want you to come out of the shadows. And we want to put some structure in place that will give you legitimacy for coming into our public housing programs. And so I want to continue to work with you. With respect to comments you made regarding the interview that I had, I think we had the interview last year, and it was in London Village. And as you know, when you have reporters, they ask you a lot of questions, and they give you they take sound bites and that sort of thing. And so we were talking about the redevelopment of all of our sites, and London Village is one that we were really focusing on. And this, I want to also let you know, and you probably know this, but just for the public to know, I grew up in a significant number of my years, childhood years in public housing. And I got plenty of relatives in public housing. And so when asked the question, would I want to live in one of the public housing units that was underdeveloped, then my answer was no, I wouldn't want to have to. But we want to move forward with changing. That's why we're here to change what we have to provide better housing for the residents. If I had to, and many of the residents, that's what they're up against. If you have to, then there's few choices. There's not many other choices. And so what we're here to do is change and transform all of our housing units. And Morton Simpson is one of them. We have a RFQ that's out right now where we want to redevelop all of our older public housing sites. And we have to go through the procurement process. There's steps we got to go through. But we want to make sure that we have housing that we can be proud of, and that we want any citizen to feel okay about living in those houses, in those units. And so just want to bring a little bit more context behind the interview. A lot of times they'll take little bits and pieces and won't really give you the full story, but I just want you to know, I'm always with you, always with the residents, and always with trying to transform where we are to something bigger and better.
Our town hall meeting will be, I forgot the mission, it's 5:30 to 7 o'clock, January 9th, 2020 at the community center. Refreshments will be provided through the resident council. And what you just spoke, they need to hear that from their leader, their CEO, and see their board members and the people who represent them in public housing. So hope to see y'all on January the 9th at our town hall meeting.
I want to thank Mr. Edwards for bringing that point up. I never shared that information, but on that same night that the interview transpired, I got calls too about that. And I never said anything, maybe because I had a background that I know our CEO had been living in public housing. But it is a perception that was shared out there in the community, and there was a lot of anger behind that. But that's why we have to be careful when we get in front of that camera. You need to have a written statement somewhere, need to go for what you say sometimes, because they pick out what they want to. But thank you for coming forward with that, and maybe now you can share with others as to really what was said. And like I said, going to the meeting, that might also put that in the right perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Todd. All right, Keith Rice. Keith Rice. Keith Rice. Going once. Is Keith Rice still here? Oh, okay, so you don't want to speak?
No, sir, that was the wrong side.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. All right, okay. All right, very good. All right, so now we're down to the portion where we need to go into executive session. And we're going into executive session to discuss good name and character.
if that's the pleasure of this board. So, if I can get a motion, then we will go into executive session.
Chairman, I make a motion that we convene executive session.
All right, it's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
How long?
So we're about to go into executive session. We will be in executive session for approximately 45 minutes. And we will reconvene at the call of the chair.